So the Kush of the sub-Saharan Africa, I think, maybe? Question mark? I don't know. South of Egypt, that's all you need to know. Kush is a very armor-piercing oriented faction. Lots of armor-piercing on their units, as the Shota warriors and the armored Shota warriors. They have a very extensive and versatile missile roster. One of the best floaters in the game in the Kushite slave infantry. Specialist units like the Disciple of apedemak. They have access to both chariots and elephants. However, they do lack armored archers, with the exception of the 700, the most expensive archer in the game, Royal Kushite Archer, and subpar spears and pikes. And they also lack survivability to an extent on their mid-tiers. Their elites are not, including the Disciples of apedemak, which sounds a bit weird, but I'll tell you why. Kush is aggressive. You play aggressively with Kush. People like to say it's just a counter to Rome. It's okay at doing it, but there's factions that do it better. But Kush into Rome is fine. It's not the absolute be-all end-all. Oh no, they've picked Kush. Rome's cooked. Not necessarily. Yeah, that's about it. Very much a aggressive style faction that you're gonna need to really get into the fight really quickly with them. But however, you're not playing them like Odrysian kingdoms. Kush can't really set the pace of the battle due to their low armor and lower armored skirmishers, though they do have a good variety of them. Special units like the Tribesmen, 190. Best cheap chavvy in the game because they have the 32 damage for 190. So depending on your rule set, you can bring a few of those. They have the best Berserk kind of class unit. Disciples of apedemak walking in front of us now. They don't go Berserk, but they might as well. And I'll get onto that when we go around to them in the open field. Their cavalry, which I haven't mentioned, is subpar. There's no missile cav or shock cav to speak of. The melee cav is slightly deceiving on their elite Royal Kushite Guard. The rest of their cav is pretty poor. And their mid-tiers are very, very expensive. Though it is compensated the cheaper archers and cheaper low tiers. But yeah, that's Kush, and we'll go meet them in the open plain. So the slave infantry, the cheapest low tier in the game in GC. For 140, you're getting a really good weapon. Good health, actually. And everything else is bad, because it only costs 140. They have no javelins. They have no armor. Their armor comes from the shield, as you can see. They have actually okay melee attack. But if you want the slave infantry, it's a very solid pick, and they do most importantly come with loose spacing, which is very nice if you're trying to push up siege equipment. It means they're less vulnerable to arrows. Don't expect these guys to kill anything. Though that good weapon will mean they can do some damage to other low tiers like Hillman. Kushite slave infantry is their upgraded big brother. Retaining that weapon, but gaining over double the melee defense, more armor, more morale, slightly less attack, slightly less charge, retaining that loose spacing, but they get javelins and it only costs 220. Best low tier, other than maybe Club Levy, hands down. They just do everything a low tier needs to do for a really cheap price, compensates their expensive mid tiers if you bring them. If not, if you go to elite spam, you can bring a lot of them to battle buddy your elites. It's so good. I cannot stress how good Kushite slave infantry are. Most of their armor is shield value, but that doesn't matter. Kushite slaves, if anyone's shooting them, they cost 220, so who gives a toss? Always bring the Kushite slave infantry. Always, always, always. Kushite slave spearmen is a spear variant. Ooh. I've misclicked. They have 80 range, which, you know, how do I know this? Because I've been in the game files. That's how I know. They have 80 range, non-targetable javelins, so, you know, something. Slightly more survivable than their counterpart in front of them. They don't kill as much. They cost 60 more. And overall, they're not as worth it. Really, the Kushite slave spearmen. If they don't get charged by cav, they'll topple them. But you're assuming they don't. They're not really that worth it. Bring the Kushite slaves, because he could save some more money for either better skirmishers into a specialist unit, like elephants or chariots, or into more elites or mid-low tiers, like the Kushite slave infantry. Another low tier they have is the Nubian spearmen, having square, fairly good stats all around, but they do cost 380. No javies. They have rapid advance also, which I'm sure does something. I could probably just move them. What does it do? Like, I mean, assuming it... Yeah, it's supposed to make them faster, but nothing exceptional. They become exhausted at the end of it no matter what. Their stats overall are pretty good, though they're not worth bringing, because you can get almost two Kushite slaves infantry for a Nubian spearman, so there's no point. They won't kill much, though their stats all around are pretty decent for a unit of its price. It's actually, if anything, I dare say it's slightly underrated, but like, it's a Nubian spearman, they can't kill anything, won't do anything. It's not got great abilities. Don't bring them. Don't. Swordsman? I used to be a fan of this unit. But for 420, once again, you're almost getting two Kushite slave infantry. They have good survivability, okay morale, poor attack stats, poor charge, more defensively focused. They're like upper end low tier. They do retain the javelins. I wouldn't bring them, really. I don't think they can win against Celtic warriors. Once again, for Kush's low tiers, always bring the Kushite slave infantry or slave infantry, dependent on your needs. Leopard warriors, don't even bring them. They have really good charge, really good attack, poor weapon, frenzied charge, they become unbreakable, square, really good morale, poor survivability, they're capped at 6, and they cost 660. 38 charge there, so you can see a frenzied charge, so on the charge, I'm sure they can do something, but anything else, don't. They're really... Free Kushite slave infantry are one of these. I'd take free Kushite slave infantry. They don't have javelins either. Don't bring them. Though they're okay in the campaign. Sorry. Kushite pikes. One of the worst pikes in the game, though you can bring them. But only cost 500, they're pretty cheap. Low survivability at 500, might be okay. Poor stats all around. I wouldn't bring them. Not just like many pikes, unless you're fighting like Sparta maybe. But they're one of the worst pikes in game. Don't bring them. That's all I've got to say about them. Showtail warriors, 12 armor piercing on these guys. 860, the most expensive mid tier there is. They've really, really good defense, good charge, really good weapon, really good attack, low morale, lower health, and okay armor with shield wall. I wouldn't recommend... I mean, you can bring these guys if you have a faction that's an elite spam on your side. Like, these guys in, let's say, Sparta could work. That's an example. I haven't tried it, but more often than not, Kush plays an elite spam, which I'll get onto in a moment. But these guys are still solid infantry, provided they're not being showered down by arrows and missiles. Once again, as Kush, you're not dictating the pace of the battle. That is down to your allies. Or if you just can't, you have to try and make the best of the situation you find yourself in. And the Showtail warriors will more than likely be dumped unless your opponent's unaware that you put them in, or it's just new to the game. Both their elites are really, really good. Armored Showtail warriors might have lower health on average compared to your average elite. These guys come with 1260. Really good charge bonus. Lower, but still good defense. Really good morale. Exceptional armor with 60 base. 40 attack, and here's the kicker. The 50 damage weapon with 20 armor piercing. It's so good. It is so good. They could go toe-to-toe with any other elite, despite the fact its stats might, and no lack of aggressive abilities might think, oh, it's more of a defensive elite. It can do both. Just as well. It can do both. It has, I think, 55% block chance, so if you dump it, who cares, because they're just gonna tank all the arrows. Unless they're really being dumped. But Armored Showtail's one of the best elites in the game. You can do these guys, or you can do Disciples of Apedemak, depending on what you are facing. But always bring at least one or two. Disciples of Apedemak. I'm just going to let stats speak for themselves, and I'll explain the survivability. These guys have 50% block chance, along with 85 health and 25 armor. All of it in the shield. And because of this, they can tank more than you think they can. For 1220, they're 40 less than the Disciples are Armored Showtails. They have bonuses in infantry weapons, so they have 75 attack and 40 damage against infantry, 60 charge bonus, 6 in defense, exceptional morale, fear, frenzy, and headhunt, which if you click both of them, I'm always certain they'll win against a Thracian noble on the charge. They have more charge bonus. They'll, like, you click these two buttons and you just win. Everything is green, you just win. The only time I wouldn't bring a few of these is against, like, Pontus or Pergamon, if they've got a lot of javelins. But that's it. These guys kill everything, I'm telling you. So good. Always bring some of these guys. Even if it's just a one late game. The only weakness is like a Royal Cataphract, really. Just make sure you refresh them after the abilities. And they can grind. Don't get confused. They can grind. They don't have to cycle. They have their own variants of the low-tier skirmishers. Tribesmen, if you play with +1 rules, I'd always bring one. For 190, you're getting a better javelinman, because they have the higher damage, they have the flaming shot, and they get the value doing anything, even if they front dump a hoplite. It's the damage that matters. It's 12 AP a hit with these guys. Always bring a tribesman if you have the +1 rule going, or even if you don't, you can bring them. You can bring them instead if you're trying to save funds. They're really good for their price. Regular archers, game over. They're the same as the Hellenic ones, just reskin pretty much. Slave slingers, one of the worst low tier slingers due to their only 10 armor. There's no base value. They don't have high block chance like the slave slings from RDI. But you can still bring him. You can still bring him. It's still viable, though it's not recommended. The other archers are slightly upper end archers, include the Kushite archers and the Nubian bows. Most commonly, you'll see the Nubian bows due to their lower end cost, yet their higher range. They're very fragile, they have the range to compete for 360. And these guys are, the Kushite archers are like a Gallic hunter, I guess you could say, but a shot that is exclusive to Kush is the poison shot. The poison shot takes down their missile damage, but it reduces melee attack and defense damage. Though assuming that's another comma there. They're basically like a Gallic hunter with poison shot. For 30 more. And quick... Oh, that's kind of quick shot though, don't they? Yeah, that's how you view them. You're not you don't typically bring these guys as Kush, because you have the Nubian bows, and the poison shot necessarily isn't worth the 120 more funds along with the stalk. They're still very susceptible for missiles. You want to save your money for your infantry. Kush is an infantry-focused faction, using the AP and those disciples to get the job done. Royal Kushite archers, the most common general option, is their only armored archer, as armored as a Cretan, except they have better melee stats, poison shot, and they cost more. 700 is an extortionate price to be paying. They're decent in melee for an archer. They have the poison shot, they have armor. Taking these as a gen option is fine, and look very cool looking bow, I must say. Taking these guys as a gen option is completely fine. But just, you have to babysit it a bit more because as an archer it's going to be more fragile. So just bear that in mind. But this unit can certainly win you archer fights. It's got the damage, it's got the range. Very good archer unit, though overpriced. In terms of Kush cavalry, we'll kick it off with the Desert Cavalry going right. Desert Cavalry, they're light cavalry, don't bring it. End of story. Other than if you need it in campaign. Don't be fooled. Ethiopian Cavalry does have javelins, though no bonus versus large, and once again, just as fragile as a Desert Cav, only 5 more HP. And it's medium, so it won't do much damage on the charge. Same story for the Armored Desert Cavalry, except this time it has bonus versus large and survivability. Once again, don't do it. It's not worth it for 580, Ethiopian Cav 490, Desert Cav 450, I think. Don't bring it. They'll be trounced by everything. they won't kill that much either in terms of missiles, except maybe an Eastern Archer, but that's it. And you're paying 580 to kill a 350 unit. Not a good trade. Kushite Royal Guard. Now, don't be fooled. This is very heavy. They're only heavy. Now, it's still a good mass to have. They have pretty good stats overall, slightly lower armor, but exceptionally high melee defense, really good charge and weapon attack. But since it's only heavy against other cav, it can struggle because on the charge they were going to lose it due to that mass. They cost 1,150, so a slightly cheaper melee cav for an elite one. And you can bring them as an option, though only if you need desperate for cavalry, for whatever reason. If you're desperate for cavalry, bring them. If you're not, don't. That's all I can say with the Kushite Royal Guard. They are a general option, one of many for Kush. As you can see, they can have the African War Elephant, they could have the Royal Kushite Archer, the Kushite Royal Guard, or the Scythed Chariot. In terms of elephants then, you got the African Elephants and the African War Elephants. The War Elephants' difference is morale, overall stats, and they get javelins on the back, and one's a general option. But once again, you got to be careful with these guys. 1,400 to 1,600. They're a huge investment, incredibly risky to bring, though good against the right factions. Against Rome, with lack of shield all, you're going to be doing a lot of damage if they can't use any missiles they have left at the end of the battle. Elephants are really a flash in the pan unit. Once they're in, and they might not last long. It's either they die or the infantry in front of them does. And if it turns out to be elephants, you've wasted a lot of money. But they're a nice unit to experiment with. 2 chariots then, armored desert chariots, or just regular desert chariots, so they're the worst chariot in the game. Regular desert chariots, just look at those stats. No survivability, no stats at all, and they're medium. But the chariot that could be worth bringing is the Scythe Chariot. Exceptional stat difference. For 1,380, once again, very expensive. These guys only cost about 850. They're armored. There is less of them, but they have a higher mass. They don't have the javelin people on the back. They have the better morale, meaning they can hold it together despite chariot morale is always iffy. But they're nice unit to experiment with. Once again, against the correct faction, chariots can cook a lot. Though once you've got to be careful. Once they're even more fragile than elephants, sacrificing the high HP for the speed. You've just got to be careful. You've got to be careful of these guys. But that's Kush. They're an infantry-focused faction. A lot of good skirmish options. There's a specialist unit in there. Some of the best low tiers, some of the best elites. Always those disciples of apedemak. Yeah, that is Kush. Next time, what is next time? I think it might be Nabatea. Don't quote me on it. Bye-bye.